Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Yankees and the Angels split a 4-game set at Yankee Stadium, and this was the Mike Trout, Aaron Judge show. There's no other way around it. And the interesting thing is the Yankees had only allowed 3 home runs through 15 games going into the series. They allowed 13 home runs in this 4-game set against the Angels, a stunning number, and 5 of them by Mike Trout. Mike Trout homered in each game, 2 in the first, and then 1 in the remaining 3. Ends up with 5 homers and 9 RBIs. Just, unbelievable. And Mike Trout reminding everyone who he is after, just years where he was almost forgotten about, due to injury. And wow, was he unbelievable. And so games 1 and 3, the Yankees, win in walk-off fashion in the 9th inning, Jordan Romano on the receiving end, and games 2 and 4 end up being a very, very lopsided in the Angels' direction. So, we talked about for a while Yankees record in 1-run games. It actually improved in this series with the 2 wins they had being by 1 run, but they lost by 6 runs in game 2 and 7 runs in game 4. So, the run differential taking a hit. Another guy, Oswald Peraza, who the Yankees traded to the Angels at last year's trade deadline, was really, really good in this series, really tormented the Yankees. Now, he made one very, very bad defensive blunder in game 3, but in games, he did not start in game 1, but in game 2 and game 4, sensational. He went 3 for 3 in game 2 with a homer. And then in game 4, he went 2 for 4, a home run, 3 RBIs, and a double as well. So, there were definitely a lot of standouts in this series. Let's just jump in. It is an easy one. Let's just jump right into player of the series. It's Aaron Judge. Now, there were some other worthy candidates like Jose Caballero. Not only did he come up in the clutch, in games 1 and 3, more so 3, but 1 as well. And, had a 3-hit game in the game 4 loss. So he, from a batting average standpoint, was there, but Aaron Judge hit 4 home runs. And so, got to go with him. He, puts up 4 homers and, 5 RBIs. So, yeah, not nearly as gaudy as what Mike Trout did, but for Aaron Judge, it's crazy that he is now up to 8 home runs on the season, which, he got off to a pretty slow start. Not like so much in the home run department because he did have those, 2 homers in that first series. But, basically he's already tied for the MLB lead in homers with Jordan Walker of the St. Louis Cardinals. So it just shows you what he can do. And Judge's batting average is below standard, but the other numbers are starting to rise and he's not even really clicking on all cylinders. So Aaron Judge, again, he tried his best to kind of match what Mike Trout was doing. And in some ways, really the way it worked out chronologically, it felt like Trout was matching Judge and then surpassing him. As far as the worst player in this series, a lot of different candidates to go around. And someone who I didn't go with, I think, and I've already given it to him, I'm not giving it to Jazz Chisholm Jr., but extremely tempted to have done so. And quite frankly, one of the hits he's got was one of the luckiest things you'll see. That was the defensive blunder by Zach Neto and Oswald Peraza, the ball that dropped in game 3 that led to the Yankees coming back. All that to say, I'm going to give it to Ryan Weathers. And to be fair to him, he's been given, I think, literally 0 run support. In his first, 4 starts? Literally, when he's been in there, he has not gotten a single run of support. But the fact that he gave up back-to-back-to-back home runs in the first inning, it just took the wind out of the team's sails immediately. Not to say the Yankees would have hit Reed Detmer's game 2 anyway. And again, you could have gone in other directions here. Just see look, Judge, like I said, Caballero being an example of someone, and there were others that did well. But I will go with Ryan Weathers. And it's not to say that Luis Gil did all that well, but Luis Gil, probably didn't pitch quite as poorly. He gave up 1 less run than Weathers, and the Yankees won the game he pitched. So it's not always necessarily fair. but it's just the way that it is. Um, but for the Yankees, for me, there's definitely concerns as far as we've talked about the bullpen, and that kind of had its good moments and bad moments in the series. Um, and look, I mean, Caballero, some guys did better, right? Austin Wells, when he was in there, had a good series. Caballero, Ryan McMahon, that's still, an issue. Trent Grisham had a strong game one, didn't do too well. Yeah, he did have a 2-run single in game three, actually. That was pretty big. But I don't know. Yankees sit at 10-9, and they're not playing great baseball right now, it feels like. Where, in the beginning, those first couple series, it was crisp. The pitching was really, really good, especially the starting pitching. But, it's tough when you lose, when you have a chance to win the series and take 3 or 4 and you lose a Max Fried start, it's not great. And for Fried, it wasn't as if he pitched poorly, but not great either. And so it's been a little bit of a mixed bag with him lately, even though the overall numbers look pretty good. So, as far as any transactions that take place in the series, it's a bit of a revolving door as far as one of the relief spots. Jake Bird, who had made the team, out of spring training, he pitched poorly in game one and got sent down. Then they went to Yuri De Los Santos, who pitched in game two a couple of innings, and then Angel Chiavelli took his spot, and Chiavelli, he he hit a home run on Mike Trout in game four. This is a revolving door situation. Chiavelli, even though he's currently on the roster, and as I'm recording this, I don't believe that he got sent down, but let me confirm that, because I wouldn't be completely shocked if he did, but he didn't. Let's see. Did Angel Chiavelli, who the Yankees got from the Rockies, I think, in the offseason. No, I'm not seeing anything about him being sent down. But again, you've reached a point now where once they send Bird down, they're gonna switch it up, just to get fresh arms, if nothing else. Also, one thing before we go into the games, as far as the key moment of the game, we're going to scrap that just because, I found that I was remembering the key moment after it had already taken place for these previous episodes. So, hey, I'm happy to, do them again. But, any other ideas for, new segments, happy to do them. And for now, the new one that we've incorporated this year is, again, the best player and worst player on the series. So as far as game one, and game one was really a classic. This is probably going to go down as one of the more exciting games of the season, with the Yankees winning 11-10. Double digits for both teams, multiple home runs for Judge, multiple home runs for Trout, multiple home runs for Trent Grisham. You just don't see games like this too often. And it was just back and forth too, where the Yankees had a lead, Angels fought back. Yankees retake the lead, Angels fight back. Angels take the lead, Yankees come back in the ninth. So, a lot to kind of dive into in this game. Ben Rice did not start the first 2 games of this series, but Paul Goldschmidt against, the lefties got the starts. And I know a lot of Yankee fans were up in arms, look, Ben Rice is awesome. Ben Rice has been one of the best hitters in baseball at the start of the season. But I do also understand getting Paul Goldschmidt in against lefties. I do. Like, he's still a pretty big threat against lefties. Now, I would be totally fine having Rice in there and not going with Goldschmidt, but I understand the dilemma. There's other situations that I think are more sort of problematic and kind of annoying. That one is kind of unfortunate. And look, I think that Rice is still going to get a lot of opportunities versus lefties. He hit a home run against the lefty in game 4, but Rice did not get the start in the first 2 games. For the Angels, it was Yusei Kikuchi, who did not pitch very well. Goes 3 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And for the Yankees, it was Will Warren. And Will Warren, basically, he's shown flashes And the ERA didn't take a hit because of a Jose Caballero error. He ends up going 3 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 4 runs, none of them earned, 1 walking, 6 strikeouts. So the ERA on the season overall, 2.45. And I do think that there's reasons to be, optimistic about what Will Warren can do. But at the same time, the fact that he was unable to kind of escape the fourth inning and give the Angels credit, but the fact that he went 89 pitches in less than 4 innings, that is what is, a bit of a concern when it comes to Will Warren and getting deeper into games. Um, the rest of the lineup, look, Trent Grisham, he came off the bench in this one. I believe that it had actually been maybe 2 games in a row, dating back maybe to the Tampa. I want to say that Trent Grisham at one point, and I think it might have been in this stretch, might have had a couple of games in a row or a stretch of games, off the bench with the Yankees facing more lefties. And that was in this game, in game one. So Randall Grichuk got the start and left. Um, but anyway, and again, with a 4-game series, apologies if I missed some things here. And really, with so much, game one is just jam packed of things going on. And look, I kind of talked about it in my short. In some ways, it's simplistic, where Aaron Judge hits a 2-run homer in the first, off of Kikuchi. Jose Caballero hits his first homer of the year, 2-run shot in the second to give the Yankees a 4-0 lead. And the Yankees had a chance to really blow it open, but didn't do so. They were hitting the ball hard off Kikuchi. But in the fourth, it starts with an error by Caballero at short. Jose Caballero has not exactly been a defensive wizard at short, right? And the hitting has been better lately, and he's capable of being he's a utility. He can play all over the diamond, but, just eye test wise and whatever else, I just haven't really been overly confident in Caballero making all the plays at shortstop. And that era leads to unearned runs. And it was a Jorge Soler RBI double earlier in the inning. Then it just kind of, the Angels grinded out at bats. Adele RBI single, Ohapi RBI single. Then Fernando Cruz comes on, and as good as Cruz has been, the walks have been an issue. And so it's a bases loaded walk for Zach Neto to tie the game. Trout flat out. It's interesting. Trout nearly hit a grand slam, but I believe it went to the warning track, and it remains 4-4. You get a couple of, quick pinch hitting situations in this game where Ben Rice pinch hits for Rosario in the fifth, and then Trent Grisham pinch hits for Randall Grichuk, and Trent Grisham hits a go-ahead 3-run homer to give the Yankees a 7-4 lead. So what you saw from Trent Grisham in game one was a lot of what we saw last year. Pretty high leverage, late in game home runs, and 3-run home run at that. That was kind of, you saw that a lot from him last year when he was going right. And so good job by Boone in terms of utilizing the pinch hit possibilities, and it does work to his advantage there to give the Yankees a 7-4 lead. And so Paul Goldschmidt comes out of the game, Ryan McMahon comes in. But it's Tim Hill, who had come on and has done a great job this year. Unfortunately, gives up a 2-out single. Not a huge deal. They bring on Jake Bird. And then after a Zach Neto single, Mike Trout hits a 3-run homer to tie it up. And Jake Bird just kind of hung that. It was a sweeper that had just way too much play and was crushed by Trout to tie it up at 7. But Aaron Judge responds with his second homer of the game to give the Yankees an 8-7 lead in the 6th. In the 7th, though, off of Bird, the Angels tie it up at 8 due to a Josh Lowe sac fly. Camilo Doval comes on, and Camilo Doval in the 8th, and he's had a struggle this year, big time. He's a major question mark. Mike Trout homers again. Second homer of the game, 4th of the season, 2-run shot to give the Angels a 10-8 lead. Remember, at this point, the Yankees were on a 5-game losing streak, heading towards maybe 6-game losing streak. But in the bottom of the 9th, it's Jordan Romano that comes on, and the Yankees have had a lot of success against Jordan Romano, dating back to his time with the Toronto Blue Jays specifically. It was a Jazz Chisholm Jr. single to get it started, right? So that is where Jazz, kind of more than any time that I can remember in the series, that was legitimate, and he was getting booed. He gets the rally started there. So that was really his, I think only, if I can remember correctly, his only real legit hit. And then Trent Grisham does it again. And it's interesting because, again, he pinch hit in the 5th and comes away with 2 homers and 5 RBIs. A 2-run homer to tie it up in the 9th inning off of Jordan Romano, 10-10. And then it's a Jose Caballero double. He steals third. Austin Wells works a walk, goes to second on a defensive indifference. And then Ryan McMahon actually does work a real nice at bat. And on pitch number 9, walks. And on that pitch, it's a wild pitch, and Caballero scores, and the Yankees win 11-10. Give Paul Blackburn the win as he had pitched in the 9th inning. And that was a pretty fun game. And the Yankees won 11-10. It wasn't pretty. And if they had lost 10-8, the narrative's completely different. But they find a way there. Game 2, this one we should be able to run through pretty quickly. Yankees lose 7-1. Ryan Weathers picks up the loss, goes to 0-2. 5 innings, 5 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, 4 homers allowed, right? You look at the 10 strikeouts, and obviously that's something that you're going to kind of, hold on to for positivity. But again, Weathers, who was coming off of a good outing versus the A's, was not able to follow it up in this one. Reed Detmers was fantastic for the Angels, winning to go to 1-1. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, and 9 strikeouts for Detmers. Really, the Yankees were unable to do much of anything against him. Of note, Randall Grichuk does finally get his first hit as a Yankee in this one. He does get a double off of Detmers. He had been 0 for about maybe 16 or 17, I think, and finally gets off the schneid. JC Escarra also got off the schneid as well. He got a hit in the series. I don't believe he had a hit prior to the series. I think game 4 is where he gets his first hit. But basically, it would be back-to-back home runs for the Angels in the first inning. And that really just sucked any life out of the fans who, come off of the game before, presumably pretty excited. But Mike Trout at it again. Homers, 5th homer of the year. Joe Adell, 2nd homer of the year. Corey Soler, 5th homer of the year. So 3 homers in the first 4 batters. And the Yankees were really never able to recover. Detmers settles in and was just in cruise control. Then is where Oswald Peraza, he homers off of Weathers. His 3rd homer of the year. Peraza looked good. This was the Peraza the Yankees hoped that they had as a prospect, a few years ago, and it just never came to fruition. It just never worked out. And I think the Yankees are part to blame for that in terms of, Anthony Volpe, being the one that got the lion's share of opportunity. Peraza was kind of a forgotten man, and they kind of, they moved him over a little bit, and Peraza didn't take advantage of opportunities he got, right? So by the end of it, it was like, this wasn't going to work. But I think there's multiple reasons for why that happened. Peraza really, really stepped up against his former team. Trout's the big story, but Oswald Peraza's not that far behind in Yankee terms. And so it's 4-0 Angels at that point. Like I said, Ben Rice, he would pinch hit late in this game. He would actually get the only RBI for the Yankees. But a lot of guys sat. Cody Bellinger didn't play in this game for the first time this season. Jazz Chisholm Jr. came off the bench. Ahmed Rosario batted at 3rd, actually started at 2nd base. So a little bit of a different looking Yankee lineup, and I don't think it would have even really mattered. Whoever they would have been in there, wouldn't have made much of a difference. So Paul Blackburn eventually relieves Ryan Weathers, and Yohan Moncada gets a 2-run single to give the Angels a 6-0 lead. Yuri De Los Santos makes his season debut for the Yankees. He allows a home run to Moncada in the 8th to make it 7-0. Like I said, Ben Rice, late in the game, gets a sac fly after a Randall Grichuk double to start it out. Makes it 7-1, so they don't get shut out. But at the end of the day, a lopsided loss. Angels win handily and tie the series up at 1. Now we go to game 3. A game where the Yankees were fortunate to win. And it was kind of just a mini version of what we saw in game 1, where the Yankees win this one by a final score of 5-4. Walk-off fashion as well, off of Jordan Romano. So here, it's more of your regular-looking lineup with basically the lefty crew, right? McMahon in there, of course, Grisham, Jazz Chisholm Jr., right? So, kind of the lineup that you would have expected to see at the start of the season against righties. Was the only difference I'll say is that they went with Ben Rice batting 2nd, moved Judge down to 3. So that's kind of at Bellinger 4. So that they moved that around of note. But Luis Gil got off to a decent start, but at the end of the day, it ends up being underwhelming. 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Allows 3 home runs. Just not what you're looking for from Luis Gil. And for the Angels, it was Jack Kahanowitz who, gave the Angels length, if nothing else. 6 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. Too many walks, but still was efficient enough to get them, basically almost through 7 innings. The Yankees, yet again, get on the board early, and it's Judge. Homer off of Kahanowitz, the 7th homer of the year, to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead. And then in the second, pretty big, bit of early insurance from Trent Grisham to get a 2-run single to, extend the lead to 3. But then Adam Frazier homers for the Angels, his first homer of the year to make it 3-1. And then the 5th inning is when things become a bit undone on um Luis Heel. Logan O'Hoppe hits his first homer of the year to make it 3-2. Then it's that guy again, Mike Trout, hitting his 6th homer of the year, 2-run homer to make it 4-3. I also want to mention game 2. You had, of note, the sort of embarrassing Ryan McMahon bunt, which occurred, I believe it was game 2, that, down by 6, and he just bunts and he goes right back to the pitcher. So wanted to mention that. But yeah, 4-3 Angels, halfway through the game here, and the Yankees offense was pretty much silenced at this point. But give a lot of credit to Tim Hill, Fernando Cruz, Brent Hedrick, and David Bednar for basically holding the fort. And by doing so, they're able to be down by 1 going to the bottom of the 9th. Let's talk about the bottom of the 9th. Giancarlo Stanton actually had a 3-0 count. Clearly inside ball. Yankees had 1 challenge left. He chooses to not go with the challenge, and I think it was somewhat intentional. I think he knew that it might have been a ball, but he's thinking, all right, now it becomes 3-1. Maybe he still gets the walk, maybe he does damage. He ends up lining out a great play with the Angel left fielder to make the catch. Then the next batter, Jazz Chisholm Jr., has a routine sky-high pop-up that is not caught by either Peraza or Neto. And that gave the Yankees the opportunity they needed, and they took advantage of it. As Chisholm steals second, quite honestly, what bothered me, Jazz should have been at second base off of that hit alone. If he's hustling fully, he's at second base. But he does steal second. Austin Wells works the walk. And then with the runners going on a 1-2 count, Chisholm going from second, Wells going from first, Jose Caballero plays hero. He gets a 2-run double that scores Jazz easily, of course, and then a close play at the plate where Austin Wells scores from first. Pretty impressive stuff. Again, it helped that he was running on the play. And so Caballero, who has really the last few games, going back to the end of the Rays series, had a lot of clutch hits. The numbers are still not very good because he got off to such a poor start. But Caballero, now he's up to 222. Again, that's not great, but his career average is 228. So the numbers are more to the career norms of Caballero. We know he gets a lot of steals. He has 8 on the season already. But really, he looked very good at the plate, and that's encouraging. So a nice win for the Yankees, again, off of Jordan Romano. And they take the series lead 2-1. However, they're unable to take 3 of 4. They end up splitting the series due to an 11-4 loss in game 4. And Max Fried takes the loss, his first loss of the season, goes 5 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. For the Angels, it was really a bullpen game, quite honestly. That's what I'll say about that. And, they did what they needed to do. For the Yankees, it was a lot of, and one last thing I want to mention. Ahmed Rosario was pinch hitting for McMahon against Romano in game 3, which is encouraging. That's a good move. Like the fact that they were going to have Rosario as a righty pinch hit for McMahon is something of note. It didn't happen because the game ended, but they were going to go there. And I think that's smart. JC Escarra gets the start behind the plate in a day game after night game situation. But the Yankees essentially go with more of it's a little bit of a mix, I guess, right? Because they go with Rice, but they also go with Rosario, right? So it's a little bit contradictory, but the Angels did go bullpen game, so it kind of makes sense as well. It's interesting here, and looking at this, Jazz batting 7th. I wonder, and I could be wrong, I don't think there's been many times where he's been batting 7th. He's normally in that number 6 spot, but it is possible that he has been there more frequently with his struggles. He did walk a couple of times in this game, to be fair, and he did get a steal of 3rd. So it's not to say he didn't do anything in this game, but it starts out with Oswald Peraza at it again, 2-run homer off of Max Fried, 4th homer of the season for Peraza. But Aaron Judge homers in the first. Aaron Judge is just so good in the first inning specifically. 8th inning, 8th home run of the season, 4th of the series. Makes it 2-1. And then it's Giancarlo Stanton in the 3rd inning, giving the Yankees the lead. 2-run homer for Stanton. His 2nd homer of the year, first at Yankee Stadium. Gives the Yankees a 3-2 lead. And Max Fried starts to settle in a bit. And look, the Yankees, Trent Grisham kind of gave one a ride in the 4th that, maybe if that one goes out, the whole game's different. But the game remained a 1-run game. until the sixth inning, where yet again it was Peraza who gets an RBI double. Then Fernando Cruz comes in. Max Fried's last batter was Peraza. Vaughn Grissom gets an RBI single off the glove of Rosario to make it 4-3. And then Cruz was just unable to put Josh Lowe away. The former Ray dunks in a 2-run single to make it 6-3. Angels in the sixth. Yankees get 1 run back, where Ben Rice, lefty, hits his 5th home run of the season to make it 6-4. A really bad pickoff where Jose Caballero was picked off of second base, where he got a single and a steal with 2 outs. And then again, that's kind of the bad side of Caballero, where he does make a lot of base running blunders. I haven't brought up ABS yet, and apologies, because I think that there were some fuck ups in the first 3 games, but keeping it recent, right away, the Yankees lost their challenges because Jazz lost one in the second inning, and then Grisham lost it in the third. And that puts you at a real disadvantage. The Yankees have really struggled with the challenges. And again, Jazz is a constant, one that has fucked up. And Grisham has had his struggles as well. So again, that's a problem that I wish was resolved. And I don't know that it will be. Angel Chiavelli makes his Yankee regular season debut, and Mike Trout greets him with a 1-out homer. 7th homer of the season, 5th homer of the series. Breaks a record with 5 homers in a series. Homered in all 4 games against the Yanks at Yankee Stadium. And then in the 8th inning, for good measure, the Yankees smartly walk Trout with the base open, but a 2-out rally against Ryan Yarborough results in Joe Adell hitting a grand slam. So again, the Yankees gave up so many home runs, 13 home runs in this 4-game series after only allowing 3 in the first 15 games of the year. So 11-4 Angels at that point. Aaron Boone was actually ejected at one point here, heading into the 9th. But yeah, the Yanks lose this one 11-4. So essentially, look, game 4 was close for the most part, but based on the final score, they were beaten pretty soundly in games 2 and 4 and barely won games 1 and 3. So you take Jordan Romano out of it, the Yankees could have technically, it's unlikely, but they could have been on a 9-game losing streak. But not the case. They do split the series. It was eventful. A lot of home runs, mainly Trout and Judge, but Peraza in his return to Yankee Stadium made his presence felt. And so now the Yankees will continue and finish their homestand home against a struggling Royal team that I believe sits at 7-12. They are coming off of a series against the Detroit Tigers where they got swept in 3 games. So going to be hungry, but they're struggling. And the pitching matchups are as follows. Michael Wacha versus Cam Schlittler. Michael Wacha's off to a very good start. 2-0 with a .43 ERA. Schlittler, who was red hot to start, has stumbled a little bit lately, but that should be a great pitching matchup. Game 2, you got lefty Noah Cameron on the mound versus Will Warren. Warren hoping to go deeper into the game than he did last outing. Game 3 will be lefty Cole Reagans against lefty Ryan Weathers. So again, a couple of lefties for Kansas City, meaning you might see more of a right-handed lineup in games 2 and 3. But, let's see what happens. The Yankees have really not been playing great baseball. Like I said, after that hot initial 7-1 start, they are now 3-8 since that point. And so, and they're not playing the toughest competition either. So we'll see if they turn things around, but a very eventful 4-game set. Home runs all over the place, mostly by the Angels. A couple of walk-off wins for the Yankees in games 1 and 3, but at the end of the day, it's a split. And now they will welcome the Kansas City Royals to town to finish off this 7-game homestand at Yankee Stadium.